we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, right away is a hugely important point for these riders here in the Honda British Talent Cup, a combined rider bike weight limit of 148 kilograms. So the riders then just making their way onto the grid for the 20-lap race here for the Honda British Talent Cup. Eyes then to the lights as we get ready to go racing. Johnny Garnett on pole position, red lights on. And the lights go out and we're away. Good start then from Garnett. Great from Reece Stevenson on the second row of the grid as they come down towards the first corner. Carter Brown's got a flyer on the 74 as they come into turn one. Look at Sullivan Mounsey on the inside, but it's Juan Correa, I think, who's got the lead there on the Microlist Cresswell Racing machine as he comes through the first corner. So it's Vaya leading the way from the front down through the Craner curve. So a good start then from second place as they come in towards the old hairpin then through the first series of sectors. Look there at Reece Stevenson diving his way up the inside through into second place. Great start there for the top three. So in towards the left-hander the riders go, and Keanu Vaya holding on to the race lead, but not for long as Reece Stevenson sends it through up the inside into Coppice. Lovely move there from Reece Stevenson. He's made an absolute stonker of a getaway from the second row, Taylor.
Yeah, it's a really tricky place to pass into McLean's there. It's a corner that tightens up on itself and you've really got to be sure you're going through. We see a lot of riders go up the inside there and the door quite quickly closes on you, so it was a great pass and he's through to the front now.
And you can see already the top four, little bit of daylight between themselves and the remainder of the field there of Juan Correa, who just sits in fifth place at the moment, but not for long because they come through the chicane across the timing line at the end of the first lap and it begins to close up. And the slip through here, it's crucially important on these bikes as Vaya takes the lead.
Yeah, we can see there coming onto the back straight, Vaya and Johnny Garnett can use their weight as they come onto the straight to gain that little bit back on the bigger riders. Carter Brown here, he'll use this section of the track to try and make up as much as he can. Reece Stevenson as well is slightly bigger, so you can see here he'll look to try and pass Vaya up the inside if he can and not let them get away at the front.
Yeah, lovely stuff there from Reece Stevenson back through into the race lead. Vaya now goes from leading the way to keeping an eye on who is behind, and that is Carter Brown on the 74 who's going to try and mount an attack, but Johnny Garnett, his teammate, is in turn also trying to get his way ahead. Big move there from the number 40 of Juan Correa going up the inside into fourth place. And that's the thing here, of course, spec bikes for these riders. They are exactly the same machines for everybody, so it really does make it a close pack of racing.
Yeah, we haven't had a bad race yet in this championship. There's some really hungry, talented kids in this championship, and we just see here Johnny Garnett sneaking past Carter Brown, but great pass. He managed to let the brakes off. And yeah, it just provides great racing. It's a great learning class for these kids. They've all got the similar bikes and similar height and weight, so it's really the best riders in front of this class.
Are there any sort of key overtaking points for these riders here in this Talent Cup race, or because the bikes are so similar in terms of performance, does it mean that there is an opportunity pretty much every corner?
Yeah, it's different for different riders. So the lighter riders are going to use some of the faster corners. If you just watch a replay here.
Yeah, this is Keanu Vaya going down the inside, and in turn there you can see Johnny Garnett putting one over on his teammate. Late on the brakes, lovely move there from Vaya.
We see at the corners where there's faster straights before the braking zone, for instance, at the end of the back straight, riders like Johnny and Vaya can use their weight to use their speed at the end of the straight to set up the move. But corners like this, McLean's, you see Reece Stevenson there having a look where there's technical parts before it. They can use those corners to try and claw their way back and then launch an attack up the inside.
See Bailey Stewart Campbell looking to try and get one over there on Juan Correa, I believe, on the Microlist Cresswell Racing machine. So down the back straight we come here with the top three lining in third. Johnny Garnett, getting his elbows out there on Reece Stevenson. Down the back straight in towards the S-bend. Stevenson there with his weight, able to go so late on the brakes as Carter Brown sends it down the inside. Those two just about avoiding contact into those corners there, Taylor.
Yeah, Johnny Garnett, he might be small, but he definitely doesn't let that affect him. He doesn't get bullied about out there. Carter is able to use his size eventually to get through. But yeah, it's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see on the tower graphic on the left-hand side of your screen the purple dot that indicates the fastest lap. That currently goes to Johnny Garnett, who sits in P4 at the moment, down in towards the old hairpin. This is where you can see Reece Stevenson able to go really late on the brakes, smooth as you like, up the inside, back through into the race lead.
Yeah, so what he's doing now is you get to the top of Craner curves. That's a section of the track where some of the smaller riders, if they're going fast, they might roll the throttle slightly, and Reece can use that he just takes that split second where they've rolled off to carry his momentum down the hill, and then he sets up the pass as he approaches the old hairpin.
It really is all about momentum on these bikes, though, isn't it?
Yeah, especially at a track like Donington. There's no, apart from the last chicane, there's none of it is stop-start. It's all one corner that leads on to the next. So if you mess up coming out of Redgate, that hinders you the whole way down the hill and the whole way through the old hairpin and up to the next section. So it's really crucial that you hit all your points, you don't make any mistakes, and keep the momentum going.
Well, we saw at Alton Park as Reece Stevenson having a big moment there, big wobble in the mid-corner. That's going to cost a bit of time on the exit, I think, here to Carter Brown, who's going to try and take over the lead as they start the 5th lap. But that's the thing, when you're riding in a train like this, effectively, as we go 3 wide down the start-finish straight, look this up the inside, we go for Keanu Vaya into the race lead. Carter Brown goes from attacking for the lead down into 3rd place. But as I was saying, when you're running in a train like this, one small mistake can cost you quite dear.
Yeah, that's the beauty of these Moto 3 classes, that it's anyone's race really. If you can get yourself into that front bunch, the lap times in the race normally are slightly slower as the bunch bunches up and they start making passes at each corner, so that allows more riders to stay in the bunch, and at that point a rider in 5th or 6th can quite easily be leading as they come onto the straight if people mess each other up.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see there Johnny Garnes just having a bit of a wobble on the front end in 4th place, and he's got Juan Correa very close behind. The sort of top 10 have kind of splintered, top 11 I should say, have splintered away in their own group in this race. They've got a 2.6 second advantage, so any one of the top 11, with Harrison Desoy setting the fastest lap last time around, could be in contention for this lead if one makes a mistake.
Yeah, you see exactly what I mean. Desoy is down in 9th position as he crossed the line there, setting the fastest lap and bunching the whole group back together. So this is the point of the lap where everyone bunches up, because it's a chicane and it's a dead stop. If one rider does pass someone and they get to the front of the bunch, they inevitably go slower through the left-hander, and that's where the bunching occurs, and riders can then pass each other up this straight. Carter
Brown was a bit wide into the S's there. That cost him a bit of time. Thankfully, he didn't lose a position to his teammate Johnny Garnes, as a tighter line there for Reece Stevenson puts him alongside Keanu Vaya as they come down in towards the Craner curves. 2x2 through there is going to be a really brave move, and I think Stevenson just thinks better of it. Quite sensible. Still a long way in this race to go.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. The pass at Craner curves, you really have to line it up from Redgate, and just as he got to the top of Hollywood there, he came across the front of him and he had to roll out of it, so that meant he didn't have the momentum as he approached to the old hairpin.
And this, of course, is the road to MotoGP as it's built. It's a collaboration between MSVR and between Dorna. And this is a great opportunity to bring young British talent through. And we can see, of course, a lot of M-Track Vision Academy riders on the grid, including the man in 2nd place who's trying to challenge for the race lead here of Carter Brown. And, of course, that whole conglomerate of riders, they've got a fantastic opportunity now of seeing what you guys are doing in Moto3 in the World Championship.
Yeah, it's we'd like to think that there's a really good route for young riders now to get to the MotoGP World Championship, which is something in the past it's been a lot more difficult, especially if you go back 15-20 years. The likes of the Red Bull Rookie Cup has helped this championship, help young riders bridge the gap into World Championship, but now this championship as well, it's everyone's watching these kids, and it's really anyone's. If you've got the talent now and you can get yourself to the front of this class and show your speed, you've got every chance of getting to the MotoGP Championship.
Absolutely. Riders, of course, from the age of 12 and upwards in this championship. You can see there Carter Brown, I should say, going for a little look on Keanu Vaya into the old hairpin. Just thinks better of it. That allows the door to open for Reece Stevenson here. Here are the live point standings if the checkered flag fell now, but that's going to change, I'm sure, corner by corner. It would be Keanu Vaya who would have a 19-point gap. Oh, no! Contact there with Stevenson, and the Michaelis Cresswell rider of the number 53 going into there. That is a big shame for Keanu Vaya. So he was challenging for the race lead. Contact between himself and Stevenson. Into McLean's, down into the gravel he goes, and let's hope first of all that he is okay, but that is of course a big shame for his championship charge.
It's so easily done. There are very fine margins we're dealing with here, and the riders do ride really close in the Moto3 class. We'll just take a look at what happened.
Yes, you can see here Stevenson then on the inside. What do you think of that? That was nasty there for Vaya, wasn't he? He got caught on the back of Stevenson's bike.
So it's really difficult as they approach there. Stevenson's obviously gone up the inside, and you'll see at this point, Stevenson has gone in, but he's also maybe a touch wide, and Vaya's expecting to come across the front there, and a little bit of a racing incident. He didn't mean it at all, but at the same time there's two lines coming together, and unfortunately the rider on the outside is always going to come off worse.
Yeah, well, we hope that Vaya is okay for that. The marshals here doing a fantastic job of just making sure that he is stretched away safely and the race can continue under conditions. Meanwhile, at the front, it's all changed again because Juan Correa hit the front very briefly. He's now sitting in second place, so from one Microlace Cresswell Racing rider challenging for the lead to another. Juan Correa moved backwards a bit off the start, was down in about 6th or 7th place, but has now made steady progress through the field with all the chaos that's been going on, and he's now challenging for that lead.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that I was looking at Carter Brown here as he's riding this bike. He was actually racing a 600 last week in Estoril in the Junior World Championship, so this bike will just feel like nothing to him. You can see how late he can brake on it. It will feel like he's riding a toy.
Carter Brown into the lead, then followed by Johnny Garness as they come down the start-finish straight. Across the timeline we go, already nearly at half distance in this race. You can see what it's done though for Reece Stevenson. He was challenging for the race lead. He's now back in 5th place in this group, challenging there on the 55 of Harrison Desoy. Up the inside he goes through and makes his way up into P4, but again, it's just sort of unsettled his rhythm, I think, there for Stevenson.
Yeah, sometimes when you have contact like that, it takes a lap. Your mind's thinking about what's just happened rather than what you should be doing, and it takes half a lap to get back into it. He's been really strong in this race, and I'm sure he will just fight his way back to the front.
Yeah, Harrison Desoy sending it straight back up the inside. Ryan Hitchcock on the red 43 looking to join the party here as well. The top two of the MLAV Vision Track Academy riders are sitting at the front of this race, with Carter Brown having the advantage over Johnny Garness. Those two, do you reckon they'll be thinking about working together at this stage?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't think the answer is yes. Two young kids that are just desperate to win this race, and both very talented youngsters that they've only got one thing on their mind, and it's not helping each other out.
Yeah, out of the two, of course, Carter Brown hasn't taken a win so far this year. 2 second places, sadly 2 DNFs for him at Alton Park a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, Johnny Garnett, of course, has taken 2 wins so far in 2022. He now sits at the sharp end of the field. You can see there Bailey Stewart-Campbell putting a move over on Ryan Hitchcock as he tries to elevate himself up the order. Fastest lap last time around for Johnny Garnett, the race leader. So encouraging signs there for Garnett that he's got the pace here at this halfway stage, but because of the bikes being identical, it's so hard to make a gap over the rest of them.
Yeah, especially when if you do start passing each other, that's going to help hold each other up and let the group catch back up. I do think Johnny and Carter, you've just seen there as Johnny's done the fastest lap of the race, if they do work together, they do have the chance to break away. But it's so easy to just pass one person into a chicane, hold each other up that little bit, and the group closes back up. Yeah,
this is the battle we're looking at for 12th position, involving Edmonds, Goodman, Crosby, McKay, etc. As they go through, you can see Harrison Crosby sending it up the inside and making himself a position there as he goes through ahead of Kelly. But Crosby, of course, was looking really strong at Alton Park, high-sided out in the final corner. A disappointing end to his weekend. Seems to just be lacking a little bit of pace. Someone who's not lacking pace and lacking confidence is Reece Stevenson as he sent it through on that final corner.
Yeah, he's been really confident all year, especially on the front end of that bike, making big passes and using his momentum to make moves, and it's really good to see.
Yeah, simply the confidence you have to have on the front end is astounding on these bikes. If you don't have it, then you're going to be nowhere, are you?
Yeah, a Moto3 bike, they're at some corners are going just as fast as superbikes. It doesn't always look like that, but they're able to carry the momentum. They've got little skinny tyres, they're really lightweight, and they can also make really big passes because the bikes are so light. They stop really easily. It's the first thing you notice, or I especially noticed it when I moved up to a 600. The bike doesn't feel like it's stopping when you first go to the brakes, whereas these bikes, they stop and turn on a sixpence.
So at the front you can see that it is still Carter Brown who has the advantage over Harrison Desoy, who now sits in second place. So he's been able to split up the two MLAV Vision Track Academy riders, and that now becomes a first and fourth place for the MLAV Vision Track Academy riders, as Garness is demoted down into P4, with Reece Stevenson making some forward progress up into P3. Down the back straight we go into the chicane. I think this is going to end up inevitably being a last lap scrap here in the Honda British Talent Cup.
Yeah, the other thing with this, the junior races that we have, is because this is part of the Dorna programme, the races are really long, so it's 20 laps, which is getting on to the same length as the Superbike race. So normally in these junior classes they have really short races, but with these longer ones they have to really think about using their tyre up properly and think about their fitness and planning their moves in the dying stages of the race when everything becomes as hard as it possibly can. The tyres are worn out, you're worn out, and they've really got to try and start constructing a plan as they get towards the last few laps.
Do you actually have time to think about making a plan when you're riding?
It's difficult in a race like this where you might have a plan and normally they go out the window because whatever you're thinking, someone else is thinking the complete opposite, and it's so easy. We saw just 3 or 4 laps ago, Johnny Garness did the fastest lap of the race, and then the next lap he crossed the line in 4th. So at that point he would have been planning on maybe riding away at the front of this race, and suddenly you're back to 4th. So your plan's constantly evolving, constantly changing, but they'll always be thinking, they'll have one eye on the last lap and trying to set up a move for the last chicane.
Saw Bailey Stewart Campbell there getting his elbows out, trying to muscle his way past Juan Correa. Wasn't quite able to make that move stick into the cleans, but certainly signalling his intentions as Desoy goes defensive on Johnny Garness for second place, and Reece Stevenson takes over at the sharp end of the field. So, end of lap 12, it is Reece Stevenson from the number 74, then who sits in second place of Carter Brown. Across the timing line, though, you can guarantee that's going to change as Johnny Garness sets to put one over on the number 55 of Harrison Desoy, not quite able to make the last of the late breakers manoeuvre into that first turn. And it is still Carter Brown who holds that race lead, holds the advantage. These guys running nose to tail down the Craner curves. I have to say, Reece Stevenson's confidence on the brakes into the old hairpin is just astounding.
He's riding really, really well. No matter what's happened in this race, he's managed to work his way back to the front. He's not scared of passing anyone. He's had some really big late passes. He's really good at carrying his momentum. So you see up through here, he can settle the pass. It's what happened before when there was a little bit of a coming together. He actually gets passed by Desoy. Oh, that was a great pass.
2 in 1 there for Harrison Desoy. Great move there. Loses it on the exit though as Carter Brown comes through. And there you go, from making 2 places to losing 3.
Yeah, you see just how quickly it can change. That was a brave pass. I'm not sure if he ever thought he was going to stop, but I definitely didn't think he was going to stop.
Let's have a little look then at this manoeuvre. Harrison Desoy sending it down the inside of Stevenson, and Carter Brown had to momentarily sit up, runs it a bit wide on the exit through McLean's, and unfortunately loses momentum, loses positions as a result of that. I have to say though, one man who's made steady progress through this race, hasn't got his elbows out too much so far in the front group, is Ryan Hitchcock, who's sitting on the red 43, set the fastest lap last time around, tries to have a move there on Desoy into the first corner, isn't quite able to make it stick into Redgate, but he's looking pretty handy towards these latter stages.
Just as we start concentrating on one rider, another rider sets the fastest lap of the race. It really is anyone's in this. Stevenson for me is the one that's been able to do big passes, but he's also fell victim to that as he's made some of these passes. Riders have got past, and now Carter and Johnny have got back to the front. Desoy has also made steady progress through this race, working his way to the front, and now Hitchcock. So yeah, your guess is as good as mine at this stage.
Sullivan Mounsey bookending this little group, as you can see just off the back of there is Lucas Brown. Look over the shoulder there for Reece Stevenson. What's he thinking? Is he just signalling to his other riders?
I think he's wondering where all these people are coming from.
He is getting a bit mugged over here, isn't he, in these sort of latter stages? He was challenging for the race lead. He's now just hanging on to the top 5 here.
Yeah, there's nothing worse, I think. One thing I always try and teach younger riders not to do is look behind, because there's never anything good to see when you turn around. There's only other riders, and at this stage all he needs to be doing is focusing on what's in front, how he's going to get past other riders, because when you look behind, all that sort of signals to the rider behind is you're struggling and you're wondering who else is going to pass you. So it's important to just keep focused and keep making moves.
Status quo between the top 2. Carter Brown leads from Johnny Garnett. Ryan Hitchcock's elevated himself into 3rd place, so nice ride there for Ryan, but for how long? Because Harrison Desoy gets really good drive coming through Redgate and down into the Craner curves. He's back through into 3rd place. Reece Stevenson there, not able to do anything to mount a challenge on these top 4, but he needs to keep it a bit tidy. Somebody who's not keeping it tidy is Sullivan Mounsey, just going a bit wide out of the exit of the old hairpin, and you can see there a simple mistake, and look how many bike lengths it's cost him.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying before about momentum in this class. You've really got to keep your momentum going, and if you just roll the throttle off that split second, it can cost you 0.2, 0.3.
So no long lap penalty for these riders, just to remind you here. It will be a 2-second time penalty given by race direction if they are deemed to have exceeded track limits a few too many times. Bit of a brief look over the shoulder there for Johnny Garnes in second place. He's just keeping a close eye because these riders are just running absolutely head to toe to one another. You can see Hitchcock there getting up the inside of Desoy and through into fourth place. Who's going to be the fastest rider this time around? As I think some nervous faces there on the pit wall for the Vision Track guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of nervous faces. I don't want to speak too soon because we're in this situation at Silverstone and all of a sudden there's two Vision Track bikes on the floor. So they're both riding really well, Carter and Johnny. Carter's really stretching them at the front at the moment. He keeps setting his fastest laps of the race. But Stevenson is your man that's, no matter where he's got shuffled back to, he's always managed to get back to the front as he looks up the inside of Johnny here. Yeah, makes the move stick through the old hairpin. It does Reece Stevenson, nicely done. Lose a bit of momentum on the exit, again wide there for Sullivan Mounty, so race direction might be having a thing or two to say about that. Challenging for third place he was, or second place I should say there for Reece Stevenson, now set to lose third because Hitchcock's going up the inside as he goes down. Reece Stevenson from third place, drama here in the podium battle, and unfortunately he crashes out of a potential challenge for the race lead there for the Lincolnshire man. That's so disappointing after a really strong run, just too much on the front end. It's such a fine line. You'll see here just carries a little bit too much speed in. He's got 4 fingers on the brake there. There's a lot of breakage trailing in, and unfortunately just loses the front. I'm not sure if there's any contact there or not. It's hard to see from that angle, but it's we'll just see here. No, he just lost the front on his own.
Just too wide.
So, yeah, too wide. As you get out onto that part of the track sort of levels off and you lose the camber of the corner as well. So really easily done. It's such a fine line between being really confident on the front and passing people and losing the front.
Well, thankfully for Reece Stevenson, up and okay following that crash. I hope that he will be able to get the bike fixed and ready to go for race 2 here tomorrow at Donington Park. Meanwhile, that does cause a little bit of a gap there between the top two as Carter Brown is just able to build a bit of a gap over Johnny Garnes here in second place very briefly, but not for long because you can see there Garnes is able to try and make their way through. They're just getting their way past the back marker here as they ride through, and that's just unsettled Garnes, I think, for a few moments as the field makes their way through. But yeah, it's unfortunate there for Garnes because he was looking to try and mount a challenge on Carter Brown. Now he's having to keep a watching brief on Ryan Hitchcock.
Yeah, that was just what Carter Brown needed to try and break away at the front. Back markers are, it's not necessarily the back marker's fault. It's really difficult to get out of the way and know what to do. And it was the first person that had approached him, but he was able to put the back marker just in between him and Johnny Garnes. And that might just be the gap that he needs to stretch them. We'll see now what Johnny can do with 2 laps to go in this race to bridge the gap.
Yeah, it's absolutely flown by here. You can see Bailey Stewart-Campbell pulling out of Juan Correa's slipstream, trying to make his way through. Isn't quite able to do it on the brakes into Redgate, and possibly is going to come under attack here from Sullivan Mounty if he's not too careful. So they run nose to tail, and you can see there Carter Brown having a half-second advantage. I mean, that's easily the biggest gap we've seen for a race leader so far here.
It is, and Johnny's just set his fastest lap of the, fastest first sector, chasing him down. He took 2 tenths out of him there in that first sector, and you can see just how hard he's trying, and he's stretched the group and broken them behind.
So in towards McLean's we go then. You can see Johnny Garnes banging it down the gearbox as he goes through. I imagine they're all probably running a race shift configuration of gearbox, and what I mean by that for those at home is down is up and up is down basically.
Yeah, so we run the gears that way around because as you're accelerating out of corners, it's easier to shift down on the lever than it is to pull up. You've got a little bit more time when you're braking to pull up on the lever, so 90-95% of riders use that configuration. These bikes actually come with the bike that way around as opposed to a road bike that would come as you would normally expect a motorbike.
Ready to start the penultimate lap with Carter Brown in the lead, followed by Johnny Garnes. Then it's Harrison Desoy, the man, of course, who was on the top step in race 2 yesterday. Look at the progress he's made, 12th on the grid, now up into 3rd. And, of course, the grid positions will be set for race 2 by the fastest laps that are set here in this first race. So we'll keep an eye on that. Race control have made a notice. And there we were saying about Sullivan Mounty a couple of laps ago. Track limits warning for him. So if he does it again, he'll be hit with that 2-second time penalty.
Yeah, this is obviously fed down from Grand Prix where the track's painted green on the outside of the track, and if you touch that green, it's classed as exceeding the limit of the track. In the good old days, it used to just be grass, and the grass was sort of self-policing because if you got on that, then you would be upside down. But now Race control, keep a keen eye on that. Anyone that's deemed to do it lap after lap gets penalties imposed on them.
They're just approaching the back of Holly Harris here. I wonder if they're going to come up onto the back of her before this race reaches its conclusion. Let's keep an eye on that, because it could have an effect on what happens between this leading group. Down the back straight we go, and up into second place goes Harrison de Soy. But for how long? Because Garnes is a demon on the brakes. Is he going to be able to outbrake Harrison de Soy, though? Not quite into there. Garnes down into third place, ready then to start the final lap of race 1 of the Honda British Talent Cup here at Donington Park. It's Carter Brown who leads the way. Garnes pulls out of the slipstream for second place as they come down the start-finish straight into Redgate. He's already got the advantage, and he's now through into P2 as Hitchcock goes around the outside there and gets himself up into P4.
Regardless of what happens in this final lap, Carter Brown's rode an absolute stunning race so far. He's been really consistent and fast in his lap times, led from the front, which is not easy to do. The one determining factor, I think, in this last lap is going to be the back marker, and we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a keen eye and see what happens. Fastest laps you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. Reece Stevenson will be the rider who starts from pole position. So, despite crashing out of this race, if he's able to hold on to that, as we can see them making their way past Holly Harris, this is not what the leading group wanted, but they managed to navigate their way through the traffic relatively easy. And it is still Carter Brown in front, but for how long? Because Johnny Garnes has a big old look up the inside into Coppice. They're ready to come down the back straight and in towards the S-bend for the final time. It's advantage Carter Brown in front. But is he going to be able to hold on to that race lead and take the checkered flag here in race 1? Here comes Harrison de Soy as well on the brakes. Into the S-bend we go. It's Carter Brown who has the advantage, and surely unless he loses drive, he'll hold on to take the checkered flag in race 1. It's Carter Brown with the win here at Donington Park. Or is it? It's so close between himself and Johnny Garnes. 24 thousandths of a second to the line. Harrison de Soy takes third place with Ryan Hitchcock, Sullivan Mounsey completing the top 5. Meanwhile, further back, this is a great little scrap going on for the top 10 positions with Edmonds involved. Edmonds is just about going to be able to get the advantage, or is he? No, because it's the 15 of Harrison Crosby who gets ahead and gets himself into the top 10 right at the end of that race. From Edmonds, then McKay, then comes Goodman and Kelly, and it'll be the number 27 of Wilkinson completing, in fact it's actually Ollie Walker who completes the points in 15.